The Galactic Empire stretched across thousands of star systems, a vast ocean of power and authority that had lasted for centuries. Its fleets were unmatched, its laws unquestioned, and its people had grown used to peace born not from kindness but from dominance. To most citizens, the Empire felt eternal, like the stars themselves, too large, too strong, too perfect to ever be shaken. On the edge of this mighty realm, where the glittering borders faded into the unknown, a small patrol fleet drifted through space. For the crews aboard these ships, life was routine. Their duties were simple: monitor traffic, check for smugglers, chase pirates, and send reports back to Central Command. Very rarely did anything of real importance happen so far from the Imperial core. The patrol crews often joked that they lived at the edge of boredom as much as at the edge of the galaxy. But on this day, the silence of space broke. The lead ship of the patrol, the Imperial frigate Valor's Eye, picked up an unusual reading. At first it seemed minor, a faint energy signal on the scanners flickering like the dying breath of an old engine. The operator frowned, adjusting his instruments. Signals like this were usually nothing more than drifting wreckage or harmless debris. But as the minutes passed, the readings grew sharper, stronger, more focused. Something was moving. "Captain," the operator called, his voice steady but tense. "We have a contact. Unknown vessel, bearing 47 by 29, distance approximately 2 million kilometers and closing. Captain Darian Solis, a veteran of 30 years in the Imperial Navy, leaned forward in his command chair. His dark eyes narrowed as he studied the data appearing on the screen. "Unknown?" he repeated. "Yes, sir. No transponder code. Design not matching any registered ship in the Galactic database. That was unusual." The Empire's records were extensive. Every major species, every recognized faction, every known starship design was cataloged. The idea that something completely unrecognized had entered their space was almost unthinkable. "Bring it on the main display," Solis ordered. A moment later, the ship appeared on screen. It was small compared to Imperial warships, perhaps half the size of a standard destroyer. Its design looked plain, even old-fashioned. The hull was gray, angular, without the elegant curves and polished gleam that most modern ships carried. Yet there was something unsettling about its presence. It did not drift like a civilian vessel nor move like a smuggler's craft. Its course was deliberate, precise, and unwavering. The bridge crew exchanged uneasy glances. One officer chuckled softly. "Looks like a relic from the scrapyards. Hardly worth our notice," but Solis did not laugh. His instincts, sharpened by decades of service, told him that appearances could lie. The longer he looked at the ship, the less harmless it seemed. "Signal the vessel," he commanded. "Standard hailing protocols." The communication officer sent the message. Seconds passed. Then a minute. No reply came. "They're ignoring us," the officer reported. Solis frowned. "Increase power to the sensors." "I want a full scan." The readings that followed only deepened the mystery. The ship's hull was made of alloys unfamiliar to Imperial science. Its power core pulsed with strange energy patterns, unlike anything the scanners had recorded before. Even more disturbing was its efficiency. Though small, its energy signature rivaled that of much larger warships. One of the younger officers muttered, "It doesn't make sense. It looks primitive, but it reads like a beast." "Primitive or not," Solis said quietly, "it is trespassing inside Imperial borders, and it will answer." Orders were sent to the rest of the patrol fleet. 5 Imperial ships formed up, spreading out in a cautious arc as they closed in on the mysterious vessel. The Valor's Eye took point, her weapons online but not yet armed. Solis hoped it would not come to violence. As the distance closed, the tension in the air thickened. The alien vessel, if it truly was alien, showed no signs of fear, no attempt to run, no response of any kind. It simply held its course as though the presence of 5 Imperial warships meant nothing. Finally, Solis gave the command. "Open a wideband transmission." "Put my voice through," the officer nodded. The channel opened. "This is Captain Darian Solis of the Imperial Navy," he declared firmly. "You are entering the territory of the Galactic Empire without authorization. Identify yourself immediately or you will be considered hostile." Silence answered him. The strange ship continued forward. A second officer spoke up, his voice uneasy. "Captain, I'm picking up markings on the hull. They look like writing. Shall I enhance the image?" "Do it." The screen zoomed in. The gray hull came into sharper focus. Across one section of plating, Faint white symbols could be seen. They were not Imperial runes, nor the glyphs of any known alien tongue. Instead, they were simple letters, bold and plain. The bridge fell silent. A few leaned closer, their eyes wide. "It's an alphabet," whispered the officer. "Old, but recognizable." Solace felt a chill run down his spine. He had studied history as most officers did. Deep within the Empire's archives lay records of countless species, even those who had once touched the stars but vanished long ago. Among those records was one world often mocked, often dismissed: Earth. The letters on the hull spelled words in English. Solace's voice was steady, though his heart pounded. "Run it against the database." The computer worked quickly. The answer was undeniable. The letters matched perfectly to ancient human language. "It can't be," one officer muttered. "Humans, that planet was classified as undeveloped, barely at the edge of spaceflight. They couldn't possibly..." But there it was. Proof carved into the hull of the ship, drifting boldly before them. A shadow passed over Solace's thoughts. If the humans had truly built this ship, then the Empire had been blind. What else had they been building, hidden from the galaxy's eyes? He turned sharply. "Transmit this to Central Command at once. Priority Alpha. Unknown human warship detected within Imperial territory. Awaiting orders." The communication officer sent the message with trembling hands. The bridge grew quiet again. Men and women who had spent their lives believing in the Empire's unshakable strength now stared at a single vessel and felt the weight of uncertainty pressing in. For the first time in generations, the Empire had met something it could not understand, and somewhere, deep within that gray ship with its strange power and silent defiance, humanity watched back. The news spread through the Imperial command network like fire across dry fields. An unidentified warship had been spotted on the border, and the word human was attached to the first reports. At first, many officers in the capital laughed. Humans? That backward species recorded only in dusty archives? The very idea was absurd. Earth was supposed to be nothing more than a quiet world, weak and unimportant, barely touching the edge of space exploration. But laughter turned to silence when the images arrived. The Imperial High Council sat in a grand chamber, its walls lined with stars projected on massive displays. Holographic feeds showed the gray, angular vessel in sharp detail. Its hull bore the strange letters that matched human language. Its power signature glowed like a burning star. No one in the chamber could deny what they saw. The Emperor himself leaned forward on his throne, his eyes cold and calculating. "So," he said slowly, "a forgotten world dares to send warships into our space. Curious. Very curious indeed." Admiral Kalen, commander of the frontier fleets, bowed low. "Majesty, the ship ignores all hails. It shows no fear. Our patrol fleet has it contained, but we await your command." The Emperor's gaze hardened. "Test it. Show them what it means to challenge the Empire. Send reinforcements if needed. And above all, bring me answers." Back on the frontier, Captain Solace and his crew aboard the Valor's Eye continued to shadow the mysterious ship. Hours passed, and still the vessel made no move to attack or retreat. It simply hovered at the edge of Imperial space, its engines burning steady, as though waiting for something. "Still no communication, Captain," the comm officer reported. "We've tried every channel, every frequency, nothing." Solace sat in silence for a long moment. His instincts whispered that this was no accident. Whoever commanded that ship was watching them carefully, judging every move. The silence itself felt like a weapon. Finally, the operator at the sensor station stiffened. "Captain, I have something. The ship is powering a communications array. Stand by, message incoming." The bridge fell still. For the first time, the mysterious vessel had answered. "Put it on speaker," Solace ordered. A moment later, the voice filled the bridge. It was calm, clear, and carried a tone of unshakable confidence. "Imperial vessels," the voice said, speaking in a strange accent yet perfectly understandable. "You are trespassing too close to human space. Turn back now." The crew exchanged wide-eyed glances. The words were not a request. They were a warning. One young officer nearly laughed. They're warning us? A single ship? They must be insane, but Solace did not laugh. His gaze remained locked on the gray vessel. "They are not insane," he said quietly. "They believe they can back up that warning." Within hours, reinforcements arrived. 5 more Imperial warships emerged from hyperspace. their massive hulls dwarfing the lone human vessel. Admiral Kalen himself commanded from the heavy cruiser Iron Flame, his pride glowing as brightly as the ship's golden insignia. He hailed the human ship immediately. His voice thundered through the comm system. "This is Admiral Kalen of the Galactic Empire. You are in violation of Imperial space. Identify yourself at once or face destruction." There was a pause. For a moment it seemed the humans would stay silent. Then the same calm voice replied, "This is a human warship. We do not recognize the authority of your empire. Withdraw immediately." Kalen's face darkened. "Arrogant," he muttered. Then aloud, "So be it. Prepare to disable their engines. Let us end this charade." The Imperial fleet moved into attack formation surrounding the lone ship in a crescent arc. Weapons charged, energy crackling across the black void. On the bridge of the Valor's Eye, Solace felt unease settle into his bones. He had seen countless battles in his career, yet something about this moment felt wrong, too quiet, too deliberate. "Captain," his tactical officer whispered, "look at them. They're not even moving, not even raising shields." Indeed, the human vessel remained perfectly still, as if daring the Empire to make the first move. Then Kalen gave the order, "Fire." Dozens of energy blasts streaked across the void, converging on the gray warship. But before they could strike, something happened. A ripple of light shimmered across the human vessel's hull, a barrier of unknown design flaring to life. The blast struck and vanished, absorbed without leaving a mark. Gasps filled every Imperial bridge. "What is that?" someone cried. The humans answered not with words but with action. The gray warship came alive. Its engines flared, its weapons glowed, and in a single breath it unleashed a storm. Blinding beams of focused energy lashed out with surgical precision. One Imperial destroyer lost its engines in an instant, drifting helplessly. Another had its weapons ripped away in a single strike. Yet the human fire was controlled. They did not destroy. They disabled, disarmed, humiliated. Within minutes, half the Imperial fleet hung powerless in space. Not a single human shot had missed. On the bridge of the Iron Flame, Admiral Kalen's face turned pale. "Impossible," he whispered. "No ship, no species wind should have this kind of power." On the Valor's Eye, Captain Solace stared in awe. The truth was undeniable now. Humanity was not weak, not primitive, not forgotten. They were strong, far stronger than the Empire had ever imagined. When the guns fell silent, the human ship spoke again. "We have shown restraint," the calm voice declared. "Do not test us further. Leave this place. This is your only warning." With that, the vessel powered down its weapons and returned to its stillness, as if the battle had been nothing more than a demonstration. The Imperial crews sat in stunned silence. They had just witnessed the impossible. One small ship standing alone against the might of the Empire and winning without effort. Admiral Kalen clenched his fists. This cannot be tolerated. They must have tricks, hidden allies, something. No one humiliates the Empire and walks away. But Captain Solace said nothing. Deep in his heart, he knew the truth. This was not a trick. This was not an illusion. This was humanity, and they had returned to the galaxy with power beyond imagination. Back in the capital, the Emperor listened to the reports with cold fury. His counselors whispered in fear, some demanding war, others urging caution. The galaxy itself seemed to tremble at the news. The humans, long dismissed as weak, had risen in silence, building strength in the shadows. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "Send spies. Search the archives. I want to know everything about these humans. If they are strong, we will learn their secrets. If they are dangerous, we will crush them before they spread." But even as he spoke, doubts gnawed at the edges of his mind. For centuries, the Empire had ruled unchallenged. Now a single human ship had shaken that certainty. And in the vast darkness of space, beyond the reach of Imperial eyes, humanity prepared in silence, watching carefully, deciding what move to make next. The galaxy had forgotten them, but they had not forgotten the galaxy. The defeat of Admiral Kalen's fleet spread across the Galactic Empire like a storm. Messages raced from ship to ship, station to station, until even the most distant colonies whispered the same impossible story. A single human warship had stood against the Empire and won. For many, it was unbelievable. How could a species once thought primitive, barely able to leave its own planet, suddenly appear with weapons powerful enough to humble the strongest navy in the galaxy? Some claimed the reports were lies, exaggerated by frightened captains. Others argued that it must have been a hidden technology stolen from another race. But those who had seen the battle with their own eyes knew the truth. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was not unimportant. Humanity was dangerous. In the capital, the Emperor summoned his war council. The chamber was heavy with silence as the lords and admirals gathered, their expressions grim. "The Empire has ruled for centuries without challenge," the Emperor said, his voice calm but edged with steel. "Now a forgotten species dares to stand in our path. Tell me, my lords, what shall we do?" One of the admirals, a tall figure with silver hair, struck the table with his fist. "We cannot allow this insult to stand, Majesty. They humiliated our fleet. If we do nothing, the rest of the galaxy will see weakness. We must strike them quickly before they reveal more ships." Others agreed, voices rising in anger. "Yes, crush them before they spread. Send the Grand Fleet and erase their world." But a few spoke with caution. "Majesty," said Lord Varen, a seasoned strategist, "the humans are not to be underestimated." They showed restraint. They disabled our ships without annihilation. That was not the act of a reckless enemy. It was a warning. If we rush into war, we may find ourselves facing more than we expect. The Emperor listened, his face unreadable. Finally, he lifted a hand, silencing the room. "Enough, we will not act blindly. But neither will we retreat. Prepare a larger fleet. We will test these humans again, and this time, we will learn the limits of their strength." Far from the shining halls of the capital in the dark void near the border, Captain Darian Solis remained aboard the Valor's Eye. He had been ordered to continue shadowing the human vessel until reinforcements arrived. Days passed, and still the gray warship held its place, silent and unmoving like a predator patiently waiting. Solis found himself both fearful and fascinated. Each time he looked upon the ship, he felt the weight of something greater than technology alone. There was intent in its silence, purpose in its stillness. Late one shift, as he stood on the observation deck, his first officer approached. "Captain," she said softly, "why do you think they're here?" "They could have destroyed us all, yet they sit and wait." Solis shook his head. "I don't know. But whatever their reason, they're sending a message. They want us to see them. They want the Empire to know they are not to be ignored." The officer hesitated. "Do you think they're planning war?" Solis's gaze lingered on the distant ship. "If they wanted war, we'd already be dead." The next test came sooner than expected. The Empire dispatched a fleet twice the size of Kalen's, led by High Admiral Reinar, a man famed for his ruthless victories. His fleet consisted of 20 warships, cruisers, destroyers, and frigates, supported by carriers that launched swarms of attack craft. To the Empire, it was overwhelming force, a show of might that no single vessel could resist. As the fleet emerged from hyperspace, their formation glittered like a wall of steel and fire. The human warship remained where it was, as if unbothered by the arrival of so many enemies. Admiral Reinar wasted no time. He opened a broad transmission. "Unknown human vessel. You face the strength of the Imperial Navy. Surrender now or be destroyed." Silence followed. Then the same calm voice echoed once more. "We will not surrender. Leave this place. This is your final warning." Reinar laughed, his pride swelling. "Final warning? From one ship against 20? Fire at will." The void exploded with light. Imperial cannons roared, missiles streaked, and fighters swarmed toward the lone target. But once again, the human ship's defenses flared to life. Energy washed over its hull like ripples on water, swallowing the barrage without harm. Then the humans answered. A beam of white light lanced outward, precise and merciless. An Imperial cruiser shuddered as its engines were sliced apart, leaving it drifting powerless. Another blast ripped through a formation of fighters, scattering them like dust. But this time the humans did not hold back as carefully as before. Ships were not only disabled but destroyed. A destroyer cracked apart in a flash of fire. A frigate vanished in silence as its core imploded. The battlefield became chaos, impossible. Reinar shouted, his eyes wide with rage. How can one ship? Keep firing, keep firing. Yet the harder they fought, the clearer the truth became. The human vessel moved like a predator among prey, weaving effortlessly through the storm of enemy fire, striking with perfect aim. Every shot they fired found its target. Every move they made outmatched Imperial tactics. Within half an hour, more than half of Reinar's fleet was gone. destroyed, crippled, or forced to retreat. The remaining ships scrambled to regroup, fear spreading faster than orders. On the Valor's Eye, Captain Solace and his crew watched in stunned silence. The power of the human warship was undeniable, and yet even in the heart of battle there was no sense of recklessness. The humans fought with precision, not chaos. Their strikes were measured, their choices deliberate. "They're not trying to conquer," Solace whispered. "They're proving a point." At last, the human ship ceased fire. The Imperial survivors drifted helplessly, their fleets shattered. And then, for the first time, the human vessel moved, slowly, deliberately. It turned its bow toward the Imperial ships and sent a final transmission. "This is the strength of humanity. Do not force us to show more. Withdraw." Then, as if the battle had never happened, the ship went silent once more. Back in the capital, the Emperor listened to the reports with growing unease. He had expected a victory to restore Imperial pride. Instead, he was faced with a disaster that threatened the Empire's image across the galaxy. The councilors argued furiously. Some demanded immediate war, convinced that humanity must be crushed before they grew stronger. Others trembled at the thought, warning that open war could mean ruin for them all. And through it all, one question rose again and again, whispered in fearful voices across the stars. If this is the power of a single human warship, how many more do they have? Meanwhile, far beyond Imperial reach on hidden worlds and secret stations, humanity prepared in silence. The lone warship was never meant to conquer. It was never meant to invade. It was only a messenger, a warning to the galaxy. Humanity had returned, and they would not bow to any empire. The clash had ended, but the greater struggle was only beginning. The aftermath of the clash lingered like a shadow over the Galactic Empire. Fleet after fleet sent reports back to the capital, each carrying the same disturbing truth. Humanity had struck without warning, without fear, and without mercy. The surviving Imperial ships drifted like lost stars, their crews shaken and demoralized. In the Imperial High Command, the atmosphere was tense and electric. Every officer, every lord, every scholar knew that the Empire had been exposed to a force it did not understand. They had faced human technology, human precision, and above all, human will. And now questions swirled like storms. Where had humans come from? How had they built such power? Why had they remained hidden for so long? The Emperor, seated in his throne, remained calm on the surface, but inside unease stirred. "Prepare the intelligence divisions," he said, his voice low and deliberate. "I want every record of Earth, every fragment of knowledge about humanity brought before me. There is more to this than a single ship. I will know their secrets." Deep within the Imperial archives, scholars, historians, and cryptographers worked tirelessly. For decades, humans had been considered extinct or irrelevant, their star systems lost to the void of history. Few had bothered to examine the old records, and those who did dismissed them as curiosities. Now urgency demanded attention. The first discoveries came slowly. Ancient records described humans as resilient, adaptable, and cunning, traits that were often overlooked in the galaxy's official histories. Humans had survived plagues, wars, and planetary disasters that had destroyed far stronger civilizations. They had fought not only among themselves but also against external threats, learning from every encounter, adapting and innovating to survive. A historian, pale and thin from sleepless nights, looked up from her holodesk. They weren't just survivors, she said. They were learners. Every failure, every disaster, every war, it made them stronger. They turned weakness into skill. They evolved through experience. One of the military analysts shook his head. That's centuries ago. That doesn't explain a warship capable of defeating 20 Imperial vessels. How did they manage it? What did they hide all this time? The answer began to emerge in fragments. Humanity, it seemed, had not disappeared. They had withdrawn, isolating themselves on a cluster of distant star systems far from the eyes of the galaxy. There they had rebuilt, combining their natural ingenuity with technology beyond what most civilizations could imagine. Their ships were advanced, yes, but their greatest power lay in the humans themselves, disciplined, intelligent, and fearless. The Emperor listened quietly to the reports, his face unreadable. He understood now that the humans were not merely clever engineers. They were warriors by nature. Their victories came not just from machines but from strategy, precision, and an unyielding will. Meanwhile, on the frontier, Captain Solace remained in position, watching the human warship. Days passed without incident. The ship did not attack, did not retreat, and did not respond to further hails. It simply existed in silent patience, a constant reminder of humanity's presence. Solace often found himself wondering about the crew inside. Who were they? Were they soldiers, scientists, or explorers? What drove them to come so boldly into Imperial space, risking confrontation with an entire empire? Late one night, as Solace stood on the observation deck, the ship's weapon systems glowed faintly, a subtle reminder that it was ready for combat at a moment's notice. He realized with a sinking feeling that this was a species that understood limits, that knew exactly how far to push and when to hold back. They were not reckless. They were deliberate. And deliberate enemies were the most dangerous of all. Back in the capital, more startling information came to light. Intelligence officers had uncovered fragments of communications, old transmission logs, and hidden research stations scattered across human space. They pieced together a picture that was both shocking and terrifying. Humans had been preparing in secret for centuries. While the galaxy believed them weak and isolated, they were advancing in stealth, refining ships, weapons, and tactics far beyond Imperial imagination. One report described hidden asteroid bases, each filled with factories producing warships, defense systems, and training facilities. Another described research hubs where humans experimented with new forms of energy, propulsion, and shield technology. The evidence was overwhelming. Humans had planned for a time when they would need to defend themselves, and that time had arrived. The Emperor's advisors debated feverishly. Some argued for immediate retaliation. If the humans were allowed to grow stronger, they could pose a threat the Empire might never recover from. Others warned against rash action, noting that humans had already proven their capability to destroy without warning, and that misjudging them could be catastrophic. In the shadows of the archives, a quiet council of scientists delivered their most dangerous discovery yet. Majesty, one of them said, humans are not only technologically advanced, they are exceptionally adaptive. Their strategies are unconventional. They anticipate our responses before we even act. Traditional warfare may be useless against them. The Emperor leaned back, silent for a long moment. Then we must rethink everything. Every tactic, every plan, every assumption about the galaxy. We must challenge it. But even as he spoke, he knew something difficult to admit. Humans were unpredictable. They did not follow the patterns of other species. They did not act out of fear or submission. They acted from principle, from purpose. And purpose, when combined with ability, was a force even the Empire had never faced. Far from the archives, humanity's hidden networks continued their work. The lone warship was only one piece of a much larger picture. Across the galaxy, other vessels remained cloaked, their engines silent, their crews watching Imperial space. No one knew how many ships humanity had, how many bases or how many minds were plotting quietly in the background. Yet the humans were not conquerors. They did not seek to destroy the Empire outright. Their actions so far were warnings, measured and restrained, meant to test the response of a galaxy that had long forgotten them. Captain Solace, observing from his post, began to understand a difficult truth. The humans were not only strong but wise. They understood the importance of balance. They could destroy the Empire if provoked, but they did not seek destruction for its own sake. This restraint, Solace realized, made them even more formidable. The Imperial Council met again, this time with a new sense of urgency. Every sector of the Empire had been affected by the humans' sudden appearance. Colonies reported sightings of strange vessels, patrols had been disabled, and fear had begun to seep into the hearts of citizens. Admiral Kalen, though disgraced after his earlier failure, offered his insight. Majesty, he said, we cannot fight them as we fight others. They are not just another species. They are something more. Their technology, their strategy, their will. It is unmatched. We must learn from them, not only prepare to attack. Lord Veyron nodded in agreement. And Majesty, he said carefully, we must understand why they appeared now. If this is a warning, it is likely they have watched us for a long time, perhaps centuries. We cannot hope to predict their actions without studying them carefully. The Emperor remained silent. He understood the gravity of the moment. Humanity had returned, and with their return, the Empire faced something it had never faced before. A force it could neither easily defeat nor easily ignore. Back at the frontier, the human warship shifted slightly, turning its sensors outward to scan the remnants of the Imperial fleet. Captain Solis noted every movement, every action. He recorded data, logged patterns, and attempted to anticipate the humans' next moves. Yet each observation brought more questions than answers. How did they coordinate so perfectly? How did they know exactly which ships to disable? How had they hidden their fleets for so long? He realized, with a mix of awe and fear, that the humans had mastered not just technology but understanding itself. They had studied not only their enemies but the very nature of conflict, using it to their advantage. In the silence of space, Solis whispered to himself, "They are nothing like we imagined. They are extraordinary," and so the stage was set. Humanity's presence was no longer a curiosity or an anomaly. It was a revelation, a challenge, and a warning. The Empire had glimpsed the depth of human power, and in that moment, it understood that the galaxy had changed forever. The humans had returned not to conquer, but to remind the galaxy that they existed, and that they were not to be forgotten. The secrets had been revealed, and the Empire would never be the same. The galaxy held its breath. For centuries, the Galactic Empire had ruled without challenge, its power unquestioned, its fleets feared across countless star systems. And yet, in the dark void at the edge of Imperial space, one human warship had shattered that certainty. The memory of the last battle, of ships disabled and destroyed with surgical precision, lingered in the minds of every admiral, every officer, and every citizen who had heard the reports. In the Imperial capital, the Emperor sat in his throne surrounded by his council. The room was tense with debate. Some lords demanded immediate retaliation, insisting that humanity must be crushed before it could expand further. Others spoke with caution, warning that the humans had shown remarkable power and intelligence. One wrong move could provoke retaliation that the Empire might not survive. "Majesty," Lord Varen said, his voice measured, "we cannot underestimate them. They are not a small primitive species as we believed. Their technology, their tactics, and their discipline surpass anything we have faced. We risk total disaster if we attack without understanding their strength." The Emperor remained silent for a moment. Then he spoke, his voice calm but heavy with authority. "Prepare the Grand Fleet not to destroy but to test. We will see if humanity is a force that can be reasoned with, or if they demand a new order in the galaxy." At the frontier, Captain Darian Solis watched the human warship. Unlike the previous encounters, there was an air of anticipation. The humans had not moved or attacked for days, yet their presence was a statement. "We are here. Observe us." Solis could feel the tension aboard his own vessel. Every crew member understood that the humans were not only strong but patient. They could strike at any moment, but they chose not to. This restraint made them even more formidable. Their power, "It's beyond anything we expected," his first officer whispered. Solis nodded. "And they're deliberate. Every action is calculated. We must be careful. One wrong move and the Empire could lose more than just ships." The Grand Fleet approached. Hundreds of Imperial vessels emerged from hyperspace, a wall of firepower stretching across the void. High Admiral Reinar commanded from his flagship, his pride wounded but his determination unbroken. "Target that vessel," Reinar barked. "This is our chance to prove the Empire's might once more." But as they advanced, the human warship did not flee. It did not hide. Its engines glowed faintly, weapons charged, and for the first time more than one ship emerged from the shadows. Cloaked and hidden, dozens of human vessels revealed themselves, flanking the Imperial Armada with precision. The Grand Fleet froze. For the first time, the overwhelming size of the Empire's forces seemed fragile. The humans had multiplied, their numbers far greater than any intelligence had predicted. "Impossible," Reinar muttered, his voice trembling. How many of them are there?" Solis could see the pattern forming. The humans had orchestrated this carefully. They had tested, observed, and now they revealed their full presence. But even now they did not attack recklessly. Their ships moved with coordination, maintaining discipline and control, surrounding the Imperial forces like a net. A voice echoed across the communication channels, calm and steady. "Imperial vessels," it said, "we do not seek war. We do not seek conquest, but we will not be conquered. Withdraw now and remember this day. Humanity protects itself and its space. Do not test us further." The words carried weight, not just because of the voice itself, but because of the demonstration of power accompanying them. Every admiral aboard the Grand Fleet understood that the humans could destroy them in moments if they chose to. And yet the humans had not done so. Renar gritted his teeth. We cannot withdraw. We must demonstrate Imperial authority. Solus shook his head. Admiral, do you see them? They are not attacking recklessly. They are not seeking revenge. They are giving you a choice. If you proceed, you may regret it. But the pride of the Empire was too strong to yield. Cannons fired, missiles launched, and the battle began. This time the humans responded with overwhelming precision. Energy beams cut through Imperial formations, disabling engines and weapon systems without unnecessary destruction. Attack squadrons were neutralized before they could even reach the human ships. Yet what astonished the Imperial observers most was the discipline of the humans. They fought efficiently, striking only where necessary, avoiding collateral damage. Every move was calculated, every shot deliberate. They were not conquerors. They were protectors, masters of restraint. By the time the Grand Fleet realized the futility of their attack, half their ships were immobilized, their fighters destroyed, and their command networks disrupted. The humans had proven a lesson. Raw power alone did not guarantee victory. Intelligence, coordination, and will were equally, if not more important. Solus watched in awe. He had witnessed the humans disable one fleet, then another. He had observed strategy that seemed almost impossible, and yet despite their power, the humans had not crossed the line into destruction. They are extraordinary, he whispered, stronger than anyone imagined, and wiser than any enemy we have faced. In the Imperial capital, the Emperor listened to the reports with a mixture of awe and apprehension. The humans had revealed themselves fully, yet they had not sought war. They had demonstrated strength, precision, and discipline. They had given the Empire a choice: recognize their power or face annihilation. The council was divided. Some feared humanity, urging immediate strikes against their hidden worlds. Others, more cautious, suggested diplomacy, reasoning, and observation. Humanity's restraint had forced the Empire to reconsider its approach. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy's greatest power felt fragile. The humans had returned not to dominate, but to assert their existence and ensure their safety. At the frontier, the human warship remained in position. Captain Solus noted the final message, broadcast across all channels. We do not conquer. We do not seek to rule. We only protect. The galaxy has forgotten humanity. Humanity has not forgotten the galaxy. Respect this truth and peace may continue. The words were not threats, yet they carried the weight of absolute certainty. They were a declaration of presence, a reminder that humanity was no longer to be ignored. Solus realized then that this encounter had changed the galaxy forever. The humans had not sought revenge for past disregard, nor had they attempted to expand by force. They had demonstrated power, restraint, and wisdom, traits that demanded respect. Across the galaxy, other species began to take notice. Whispers of humanity spread quickly. A species once dismissed as weak had returned, not with armies of conquest, but with courage, intelligence, and strength. In the aftermath, the Empire withdrew to reassess. The surviving fleets limped back to the capital, their crews changed forever. The Emperor knew that a new era had begun. Humanity had entered the galactic stage, and the old order would have to adapt. Captain Solus, aboard the Valor's Eye, watched the human ships slip quietly back into the shadows of space. He understood what the humans had shown. They were not conquerors, but guardians of their world and principles. They had the power to reshape the galaxy, yet they chose restraint over destruction. For Solus and for the Empire, one lesson was clear. Underestimating humanity was no longer an option, and somewhere, beyond the reach of Imperial scanners, humanity watched the retreating fleets, ready to defend themselves again if needed. But for now, they remained patient, observant, and silent, their place in the galaxy firmly established. The message was simple, yet profound. Humanity existed, humanity was strong, and humanity demanded recognition. The Empire had faced a warning, a challenge, and a lesson, and the galaxy had witnessed the rise of a species that would forever change its balance of power. For the first time in centuries, the stars themselves seemed to shimmer with the quiet promise of human ingenuity, courage, and resolve. Humanity had returned. Humanity had shown its strength. and the galaxy would never be the same again.